All right, for this example, I'm building a 78 by 34 inch door. So this door is going to be 78 inches tall by 34 inches wide. Now I already have my boards pre-cut already. So what I use to cut them, so I use rough lumber. So I use the planer, joiner, then table saw. Now a lot of you guys, I trust, going to buy your one buys at a Lowe's, Home Depot, or whatever lumber store is close by. So that stuff's going to be already planed. Now you can plane it down if you want more, if you have a planer, but it's totally up to you. So what's nice about having a joiner is that way you can make your edges along the board flush and straight. So when you put your boards together nice and tight, you won't have gaps. So I use a joiner. So as you can see, the boards, they fit together pretty snug. Now what I use is I put clamps on the top and the bottom of the door, and I draw them in even tighter, so that way you won't have any gaps in between. So this is the quickest way to make sure that you have no gaps between your boards. So I'll show you.
Music licensing reimagined.
So that's what that's going to look like. So now you're going to want to measure your top and bottom pieces. So you can cut them in glue and screw them on together. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So for this example, this door is 34 inches wide. So I'm going to cut my two boards, one from the bottom, one for the top. Now, what I do is, as far as thickness, I kind of go off of, you're going to look funny if your bottom and top boards are too wide. So in this case, I'm just going to keep them, I might do a 1x8 on the top and bottom. I'll show you when I get the cut.
Music licensing reimagined.
Alright, now so for the bottom pieces, I usually like to make them a little bit bigger, because at the end I'm going to use a flush router. Or use a router with a flush bit. That way I make the ends nice and smooth and flush. And then at the very end I'll use a 1/4 inch round bit to round off the edges so you'll have sharp corners, chance to get a sliver or whatever when you're using it. Especially if you have kids, you don't want to have a sharp edge for slivers and stuff like that. So I'll show you. Now, what I use here, use wood glue. Now for what I use 1.25" screws, sheetrock screws. If you want to go the cheapest route, you can get wood screws, whatever. It's going to be glued down. I use sheetrock screws because it's cheap, affordable, and that's what you want for a door. You want people to be able to afford it. So this is the cheapest and best way to do it. So I usually buy the big can screws. So, and I use pipe on wood glue. Now this one is the for interior use. For interior use, obviously it's for interior barn door, so that's what I use. You guys don't have to buy a glue bot, but if you want to buy one, this is a glue bot. They're very convenient. They come with different tips for different projects that you want to do. So this is what I use. Now, when I screw it, I put 4 screws in each board. 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and then I go all the way over. Now that we got the top and bottom pieces screwed on, now we can take the clamps off. That one, because it's already fastened together, you don't have to worry about it expanding or anything like that. So now I'll take the clamps off. So for the next part, you're going to do the side pieces that run from top to bottom. Now for this one, I'm going to use a 1x4. So I'm going to measure from the inside of the top piece and the inside of the bottom. So in this case, it's going to be 62 3/4. Obviously your measurements are going to be different. This is a 78 by 34 inch door. So everything's going to be different. So now I'm going to cut a 1x4 by the measurement that I use.
Artlist.io.
Alright, so now we got our side pieces glued and screwed on. Now we have to cut the middle board. So you have to find the middle point of the door. So this is a 70-inch tall door. So you take 70 inches divided by 2. So that's going to be your center point. You want to make sure everything's squared. That way it doesn't look funny when you get that. And now I'm going to measure inside the door, inside the 2 rails. Once you have your measurement, then you can cut your inside piece. Now, since these are 1x8, I'm actually probably going to cut the center one a little bit
Music licensing
better.
reimagined.
So I'll probably cut it a 1x6.5, just so when you do your side pieces, because this is going to be a K-style door, so when you do your side pieces, or your inside pieces, it doesn't look so unproportional. So now I have my center piece cut. So the next step is finding the center point of your board. So the center point that you find in your board is going to match up with the center point of the door, if that makes sense. So when you have your lines drawn, you don't have to make the lines for your whole board actually. Just a little mark at both sides. And you're just going to line up those tick marks together, that way everything is square.
Music licensing.
So now we're going to glue and screw this piece on. Now that we got these pieces done, now we're going to do the diagonal pieces for inside each square. So it's going to be a K pattern. Now it's called a K pattern obviously because it looks like a K when it's done, obviously. So now I'm going to show you how to measure and cut these pieces. So I use the same width as I do the side pieces. So this is a 1x4. So I'm going to use a 1x4 for the center pieces. That way it looks all proportional. So now I'll get my 1x4s and I'll measure them and show you how to measure them and cut them. Alright, so when we measure this, it doesn't really matter
Music licensing
which side you do it from. You can do it from this side or you can do it from this side. Technically there's no top or bottom right now until you hang it. So I'm going to show you how to measure this. So I go from the bottom of your centerpiece. You want to go from the inside angle. And then you want to go from the bottom of your bottom piece. Like this. So that way when you look at it, each square is going to be the same size. Or each triangle, my bad. Each triangle is going to be the same size. There's different ways you can do this. I'm just showing you the easiest ways. Now, once again, it's going to be at the bottom. This side of the board is going to be at the very inside right angle on the bottom of your center board. And then your bottom, well, this is your top, this is your bottom. So you're going to be in the inside on your bottom board. So you just mark it out. Then you go cut your piece. So now I have my diagonal angles cut. Like this. Now we can just glue them and screw them on. Alright, now this really concludes on how you put it all together, measure, build it. Now for the screw holes, what I use, you're going to use wood filler. Now, you don't have to have your angles cut perfect, which if you're very particular or anal about imperfections, gaps, that's going to happen. You're not going to get it perfect every time. Probably not going to get it perfect at all. That's what they make wood filler for, which is very nice. Now the type of wood filler I use, which seems to be hardens the best, is Minwax standard wood filler. You buy at Lowe's or Home. No, actually it's Lowe's. I get the big ones because I do a lot of these, so it's up to you how big you want to get. Now what I use to put them on is a putty knife. This is what I found is the easiest way to put this wood filler on. Now you're going to use the wood filler on all the screw holes, your joints, if you have gaps, large gaps, then we'll go from there. Alright, so now that the wood filler is hardened, now we can go ahead and sand it off. Now you can use any kind of sander you want. I got Festool. I love it. It's worth the penny. Now people who are hesitant about buying Festool because the sandpaper is expensive also, actually on Amazon there's a company that makes sandpaper for it also. It's like half the price, so it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. So now we're going to sand it off. Alright, now that we got it all sanded, now we can flush the edges up and put a 1/4 inch round on the sides. I'll show you how I do that. Alright, now that we got everything sanded, everything flushed up and rounded off, we can stain. Now this is going to be up to you, whatever preference you want. You can stain it, paint it, it's up to you. I'm going to stain it. This one is going to be stained Aged Barrel. It's one of my most popular stain colors, and I like it too. But yeah, so we'll stain it and I'll show you. I use a paintbrush and rags. It's the easiest way for me to do it. But if you guys want to do it a different way, it's up to you. It's just by preference. So let's get it done. Now this concludes my barn door build. Now if you guys have any more questions, just feel free to message me on my YouTube page. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'm going to have a lot more projects in the future. I'll probably post one to show you guys how to install these, because I know sometimes it can be pretty complicated if you haven't done it before. Alright, thank you for watching it.